At this place in history, we're talking about John Dewey and philosophy, and with Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society, Steve Perkins. John Dewey, a Vermonter?
A Vermonter, so born in 1859, right in Burlington, and I think one of the Burlington's favorite sons, and he went to UVM as well, so a lot of honors for him there. He's best known for his theories on education. So a lot of people associate him with education, curriculum development, and teacher training. But he wrote on, you name it, any kind of philosophical thought, and he had an opinion, and he wrote a book. He was well-traveled. He taught all over the United States. So very interesting fellow.
What were some of his big ideas?
So he really focused on the idea of democracy. He was a believer in a true democracy, in that everybody should participate in democracy, and that to get to true democracy, you had to have really good education, and you had to have a civil society. So he was really doing his writing and his speaking at a pivotal time in U.S. history. We're talking about the very early 20th century, and so we had the creation of the suffrage movement really taking off. So that's the right to vote for women. The NAACP was creating for the rights of minorities in our country, and he was a leading voice in advocating for a lot of these. He started off with his education at Johns Hopkins, and then he went on taught at the University of Michigan, University of Chicago, and then helped found the New School in New York City. While he was in Chicago, he was very influential in creating what were called laboratory schools. And this is a place where teachers could learn how to teach, but they could also work with students. And rather than students sitting in rows and reading books or getting instruction directly from the teacher, they would have all sorts of equipment and things to work with so that they could investigate these topics on their own, and the teacher really facilitated that exploration of topics. I think what's really interesting about his legacy today is we've heard the term democratic socialism passed around. Bernie Sanders says, I'm a democratic socialist. John Dewey coined that term. He was often labeled as the arch liberal in his great belief in community, and that the community was the best. But what he he was not a communist, and he was really against Stalinism at the time, and he spoke out against that a lot, and he used that distinction of democratic socialism to differentiate himself from this rise of communism in the Soviet Union. So his thinking on that certainly has influence today. He's a very well-read philosopher, many books, and we've just scratched the surface.
At this place in history.